Hello, everybody, and welcome inside this edition of 101 Sports. Javik Blake alongside Grayos, and we have a jam-packed show for you today.
We're going to be looking at the NFL trade deadline and the NBA. And it all starts right now. Welcome inside this edition of 101 Sports. I'm Grayos alongside Javik Blake. And Javik, your lover, Tom Brady, throwing his 600th touchdown pass. Do you think he's going to get the better end of this deal in the trade with the fan, or did the fan get the better of him?
The fan got the better deal, 100%. You're talking about, he got, first off, Bitcoin, which means he's going to make a lot of money.
One Bitcoin.
That's a lot of money. He gets the ability, he gets season tickets for the next couple of years, and he gets to tell everybody that he was the guy who got Brady's 600th ball, which, first off, the fact that it ended up in his hands in the first place was hilarious, but Brady's thrown 600 of them. He's got a lot of them, but Brady also has been running away from this snail to give him immortality for the last 20 years. So Brady, he's had a heck of a career, and he gets check off another box in the accomplishment.
So the fan gave him the ball back. Let's just read through this. 2 signed jerseys and a helmet from Tom Brady. Jersey and cleats from Mike Evans. $1,000 team store credit, which, will only give him 2 jerseys and maybe a pencil. And then we got season passes to the Bucks through 2022. But the original thing he requested was a golfing round with Tom Brady. Would you like to go hit the links with Tom Brady?
I mean, my golf game's terrible, so I don't think I'd want to embarrass myself in front of a future Hall of Famer like Tom Brady. Dinner probably would be a fun option. But golf, I mean, with the connections Tom Brady has, you could probably play at Augusta.
Oh my gosh, that'd be a dream. But also, in a more serious note, the Chicago Blackhawks being under investigation for sexual assault allegations. What do you know about the Blackhawks right now?
It's a terrible scandal, and it's something that honestly has been plaguing sports in general for the last 10, 15, 20 years. It's really been able to come to light, and it's a massive black eye for the sport of hockey, especially after coming off a 2020 campaign where everything seemed to go great. The ratings were up. They've just signed a new TV deal with ESPN and TNT that's going to give them longevity that they really have never seen before in the sport, money they've never seen before in the sport, and then all of a sudden the Chicago Blackhawks to come out like this is just terrible. Sexual assault and their abusers have no place in sports, and at the highest level, it really is a massive black eye to the entire Blackhawks organization, to the sport. The fact that Joel Quenneville, who was the head coach of that team in 2010 that won the Stanley Cup, the fact that he's still allowed to coach right now and coach me on the bench last night with the Florida Panthers is just terrible. But on the bright side, the NHL is doing what the NFL has failed to do with the Washington football team, and that is actually released the investigation without having to go through Congress. They at least had the wherewithal to say, hey, we found this. It is now into the light. Instead of the NFL, which is seemingly protecting Dan Snyder and everyone at the Washington football team for something that we know bits and parts of, but could turn out to be a massively terrible story for the Washington football team. So the fact that the NHL was able to step up with the investigation. People have been fired, albeit 11 years too late. It's a step in the right direction, but obviously you just wish it had happened back in 2010.
I mean, that's the thing with the Washington football team that we specifically see, not just the Blackhawks, is that we know so little, but we want to know so much more, and the NFL is just not giving it to us. I mean, the NFL, let's be honest, they can afford to take a loss financially because the NFL is basically just prints money, but the NHL, I think they did the right thing by releasing this. As you said, 11 years too late. But the Blackhawks just taking a major step forward, and it's just sad that things happened to Kyle Beach and the 16-year-old player in Michigan who was also sexually assaulted by the former assistant coach Brad Aldridge.
On the other side of things, go across the pond to Europe. In Manchester United, it has been a tough couple of weeks. Even though they got Cristiano Ronaldo, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has really run the team into the ground the last couple of weeks. An embarrassing loss this past week when fans were leaving the pitch seemingly after the 35th minute. Does he have a future, or when does the guillotine come down on Ole?
Soon. Very, very soon. I think it's Ole out right now. I mean, coming off embarrassing losses to Leicester City 4-2, and then at home against Liverpool, albeit Liverpool is probably the best team in the Premier League, losing 5-0 at home when you make all these big signings, when you have a solid back line, when you have Ronaldo and Cavani up top. that kind of play at Manchester United just doesn't happen. And we've seen this since Sir Alex Ferguson left in 2013. They just haven't had a stable manager, a stable guy to right the ship. And we just haven't seen it at Manchester United. That's what we usually see after these clubs. Once you get that manager that you have for life, a stand is named after them, there's statues built for them, they just have so much trouble rebuilding to that level of success. And maybe Manchester United needs to be, knocked down a couple pegs. I mean, they're already out of the Carabao Cup. West Ham United, come on, you Irons, beating Man City yesterday. Thank you. But also, I mean, he played at Manchester United, took over after Jose Mourinho left, and you got to think somebody like Conte or a big manager is going to come back or come to England because, again, if you're Manchester United, you're the biggest name in soccer. You need something to rejuvenate this team, and Ole, he's just not getting it done. The dressing room's gone. But also, our next segment really hits home for us, Javik. Both of our football teams in college, not where we expected them to be.
They're good. They're good.
We're good. Michigan for you. Oh, sorry about that.
Unbelievable. But Michigan is ranked. Wake is ranked. Wake has the clear path to the ACC title game. Michigan has a chance to do something for the first time in forever, which is actually be halfway decent and not break everyone's heart until 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, and maybe not give up 65 points to Ohio State. But it's a good spot. The question is, when you've been hurt so many times, and we can tell you, we've been hurt many of times. Our hearts have been dropped in acid on a yearly basis. So the question is, when is the heart going to break this year? Because for Michigan fans, you usually think it's around Thanksgiving. For Wake fans, this is the first time they've all been there since 2007, so they don't really know what's happening with this. But the big question is, who breaks first? Is it the Demon Deacons or is it the Wolverines?
Well, let's see here. You just said that Wake Forest is a clear spot to the ACC title. What's they do? The only game that actually scares me for Wake Forest is Clemson, because we haven't beat Clemson since 2008. We beat them 12-7 at home. And Michigan, what's that guillotine or what's that noose hanging around Jim Harbaugh's neck? Who's he never beat?
Anyone that is halfway decent, including
Ohio State.
Michigan State.
Ohio State is the answer.
It's very bad.
He's never beaten Ohio State. They have to face a dynamic rushing attack in Kenneth Walker at Michigan State this upcoming weekend. But the thing for Michigan is they don't have a passing attack. 7 passing touchdowns this year. I mean, offensive coordinator Josh Gaddis, which is a former Wake Forest Demon Deacon, he's gotten back to the point where they're just playing old-fashioned football. I mean, ground attack's been very good, but I do think going to Lansing this weekend might be the nail in the coffin for Michigan.
We're going to see what happens. Hopefully, Michigan is up late and they're punting. Nobody forgets to drop the snap, and that's how they lose the game.
Oh, that game. So you're going to talk about Wake now? You're going to talk about Wake?
Well, I think we got a limited time here, but the thing with Wake is their defense kind of scares me. They gave up 50-plus points to Army. They gave up 35 points in the last 2 games.
I'm listening. You see this? Hey.
We'll be back after this on One-on-One Sports. Coming up, we're talking about basketball. We're talking the NFL trade deadline. We're talking the World Series. Stick around, and we're going to go on a hunt for the Wake Forest shirt. We're back after this on One-on-One Sports.
Now here on One-on-One Sports, we're hitting the gridiron with the great triumphant return of Cole Noble, getting out of the producer's chair and back into the analyst chair. Love to see it. As I mentioned, Cole Noble, Tim Houlihan, and guys, NFL trade deadline is upon us. Most likely to get traded, Cole, I'm going to go to you first.
So it's really tough to see who's actually going to get traded by Tuesday, but I think the number one name on my board that I think is going to be on the move has to be Kyle Fuller, cornerback for the Denver Broncos. Just, what they did during the offseason, when Kyle Fuller got cut by the Bears, the Broncos immediately leaped out, came out in front of the pack, and signed him to that 1-year, $9.5 million deal. And so far, he hasn't played up to it. He's given up 7 completions of over 20 yards. He's already given up 2 touchdowns in 5 games. And think back to Thursday, your Browns, when they took down the Denver Broncos, Tim. That game, healthy scratch for Kyle Fuller in that game, which usually is a good sign, especially this time of the year, that he is eventually going to get traded. So I think that's going to be the case by Tuesday at some point this weekend. We're going to see Kyle Fuller on the move. There's a lot of cornerback needy teams out there. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you got the Arizona Cardinals, New Orleans Saints, Green Bay Packers. Those are just the contenders that could potentially need a cornerback of his level. And even the Denver Broncos could even pay some of that salary to where it's easy on the team picking him up, and it'll just make it an easy trade all around for Kyle Fuller.
I can see that 100%. The Broncos have obviously had one of the most disappointing starts. Not disappointing start, just overall as a season. With a 3-0 start, and now they've lost 4 straight, and they have harder games coming up. He hasn't lived up to his potential. In that Browns game, keep in mind that was without Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and Case Keenum starting at quarterback against the Broncos for the first time in a long time. And there was no real pressure. I mean, even though there was a close game in terms of score, the Browns were always leading that game, and there was never a moment where the Broncos were seizing momentum. And on a defense that was supposed to be stout and impressive, there wasn't really much of that. So that kind of leaves Denver with questions like, what are we going to do moving forward? Because obviously the season seems almost like it's being thrown away since the Raiders and Chargers have been basically trying to fight over the division lead. And Broncos have been kind of thrown out of that by now. And that defense that was supposed to be stout, and he was a reason for it, doesn't really look like it. And with that only being a 1-year deal, doesn't look like his future is lasting in Denver for much longer.
And again, who's your player that's most likely to be traded? I mean, you talked about Kyle from the defense. Who are you looking at?
So on the offensive side of the ball, I can definitely see the Indianapolis Colts running back Marlon Mack being traded by this deadline. Whether it happens or not, we're not sure. But I could see it happening because of there's plenty of teams that need a running back. Running backs get hurt very easily. There's a reason why running back careers are some of the shortest careers in the NFL overall. And when you think about it, they have Jonathan Taylor, who's been amazing so far. And when he's down, you have Nyheim Hines, who's also a stud. And then you have Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack's good, but he's not better than those two. He can be easily a running back 2 on a lot of teams and back up when there's a lot of teams that are needing a running back due to injuries and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I could see Marlon Mack on the move. Just the Colts right now are in a great spot. Jonathan Taylor's playing great. The Colts are really picking things up right now. And Marlon Mack, like you said, he is that odd man out. And some of these running back needy teams have to go out and try to get Marlon Mack if they want him on their team by the trade deadline.
And I mean, looking at players, who won't be traded by that trade deadline, you're looking in South Beach right now?
Yeah, so one player that I've seen some people talk about was Will Fuller being traded from the Dolphins. He's currently on a 1-year deal with the Dolphins. And I mean, he's off his suspension after being found for using steroids last season. And the reason why I'm saying absolutely not currently, I mean, anything can happen, but with the possibility of this Watson trade still in the air, still happening possibly if the legal issues start getting worked out a little bit more, because it sounds like Miami and Houston have a deal as long as they figure out the legal situation, because it's possible if Watson settles the cases, does a settlement, he could be in Miami by the end of the weekend. But 100% Will Fuller and Watson have a good connection. And I believe that connection will only increase. And Miami needs that. They're 1-6. I said last week that that Atlanta game was going to be a competitive game, and they lost. And I thought they were going to win that one. So anything can happen. They need Will Fuller with that Watson connection if Watson goes to Miami.
I agree. And something you brought up was that Deshaun Watson going from Houston to Miami. And he's actually my player I don't think is going to get traded by Tuesday. I mean, Deshaun Watson, all the stuff going on, everybody knows the story about Deshaun Watson, and nothing is really set in stone right now until all these allegations are figured out. And you said Miami and Houston have a deal in place. I don't think that deal gets done. Right now with the Miami Dolphins, the way that they're angling this trade is they're not going to trade for Deshaun Watson until they know for a fact he will start the first week they get him. And the Houston Texans are not backing down from what deal they want and what capital they want in terms of this trade. So I don't think Deshaun Watson gets traded by Tuesday. I think he still remains with the Houston Texans and stays that way throughout the rest of the season.
So you think the Houston Texans will just eat him basically, just suck the entire year and just not trade him at all? Yeah,
the same thing they've done so far. They're not backing down from what they want in this trade, which has to be 3 first-round picks and a player of some sort of substance. And with how the legal allegations are going right now, no team is willing to give that up.
So you think Miami's going to stick with Tua, but I mean, he's only in his second year, so asking you both, why would they just give up on Tua so quickly?
I don't think they should. I think Tua's played great in the games he's played in. He hasn't played in that many, so it's a small sample size to look at. And I think you drafted him that high for a reason. You keep him. He's your franchise quarterback. Throughout the rest of this season, you readjust once you get to the offseason.
I think it's hard to say someone's a franchise quarterback when in their second year and they've only played 10 games. But my problem with Tua is last season in games that they won when they were looking like they were playoff contenders, they literally subbed him out for Ryan Fitzpatrick to win those games. And you could always say, oh, that's the rookie, he needs to learn. But Tua really hasn't done anything this season when he's played. I mean, they lost 2 of the games he's played in, and the game they won was against New England in a close one. Not that I say you should give up on Tua, but right now they're 1-6. They play the Bills again. They have a harder schedule moving forward, and they had a playoff team last year. I feel like if they get that Watson trade done, which while Houston was very hesitant from the get-go, they've clearly at least shown a little bit more like open to it. And there was a thing I saw earlier this week saying that they had a deal basically if they get the legal stuff through. Now, whether that happens or not is to be seen. But if that does happen, I think Miami flourishes on this trade deadline.
Okay, so final question for you guys. And I did warn you guys, bad Halloween puns are coming. So what surprise trade is going to trick everybody? I mean, we talked about some treats with, Tua staying and getting all that candy and Watson getting all the candy that is money to sit on the sidelines. What's the trade that's going to trick everybody? Cole, go first.
I'm going to go back to the Bears here and Allen Robinson. I think Allen Robinson's the one that gets traded by Tuesday and could be the big surprise of the weekend. Allen Robinson this year, the chemistry is not there. It wasn't there with Andy Dalton. It's not there now with Justin Fields. And right now his stats aren't there as well. He has yet to have a game over 65 yards. He only has 1 touchdown on the season. And they brought him back for $17.8 million on the franchise tag, which is an only 1-year deal. So he's not playing great this year. You might as well get what you can from him. Send him to another team that will use him, get something in return, because he's going to walk in free agency anyways, and you just got to get something for him and just find a team that will bite on this contract.
I could see that happening too, but for my player, I chose Brandon Cooks on the Texans, and this is for one reason, and that's because of the recent trade of Ingram recently. He's been sent to the Saints, and 15 minutes after the announcement, Cooks went on to social media and tweeted about it. I can't say what he said, what isn't appropriate, but he was very clearly upset about it. They've been teammates for a while, even back when they were both in New Orleans, and it's looking like he's very not happy with the situation in Houston. It's getting worse. Their quarterback is Davis Mills and has proven not to be good, and Tyrod Taylor's still hurt. And with the whole Watson drama, it seems like that team is in a full rebuild, and it doesn't seem like he wants anything with it. And now with him losing a teammate and a friend, doesn't really seem like there's much need for him to still be in Houston. I could see him leaving.
Okay, so hold up. Last question, Cole. If you are a Packers fan. We all know you're a big-time homer for the Packers, as we can see by your apparel. Who would you rather have right now? Would you rather have some secondary help or some more depth on the outside of receiver?
Well, secondary has played great. Green Bay went out and got Rasul Douglas, who's played great ever since he's joined the team. Jair Alexander is going to come back eventually, just at some point in this year. And the defense is playing at a top 5 level. So really the big thing, and this is the thing we've seen, is scoring and making sure that Aaron Rodgers has the playmakers around him to do so. So like you said, a Brandon Cooks potentially being on the market, I wouldn't be opposed to see the Green Bay Packers go out and land him by Tuesday.
I 100% agree. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was always complaining that he didn't have people to throw to besides Devontae Adams, so getting someone else in there really would help the wide receiver room.
All right, and that'll do it from the Gridiron here on 101 Sports. Next, we're going over the hardwood for some NBA. Welcome back to 101 Sports here with Matt Laguza and Jack Nuttall, talking some NBA, early season NBA reactions. And again, I warned you guys, bad Halloween puns incoming. So guys, who's your scariest team to start this season? Jack, go for it.
For me, it's the Bucks. It starts with one reason only. It's Giannis. He's the most dominant player in the game we have today. He's been absolutely unstoppable to start the year. And I think the Nets game, the start of the year kickoff, was the perfect opportunity to show us why the Bucks are so good. They beat obviously one of the best teams that we think is going to have this year, and they still came out on top by like 30 points. They played games without Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, and they've looked absolutely fine. That Heat game is a little bit of an exception. We don't really talk about that, but other than that, they've looked absolutely dominant. And as long as they stay healthy, it'll be Giannis all the way.
Yeah, and Giannis, I completely agree. The Bucks are by far the scariest team in the NBA right now. Giannis is looking like he's going towards another MVP finalist here. And then you're getting contributions from guys like Grayson Allen and Jordan Nwora. And both of them have had huge steps up this year, and that's just increasing on their bench depth. And that's what's important here in the NBA, especially down the stretch. If you can have guys coming off the bench giving significant, important minutes, there's no question that you're going to be able to get to this.
Dante DiVincenzo and Bobby Portis, and they're still getting production from guys like you said. But also, I want to mention the Warriors, 4-0 start. I think they're come off to a really good team, really good start to the season. Steph Curry is up there for one of the greatest players in the league with Giannis and arguably the best shooter of all time. There's no stopping him. And guys like Jordan Poole are stepping up, Otto Porter. Iguodala is back on the bench and he's looking amazing. For me, the Warriors have to hold out until Klay Thompson gets back and healthy, and then once they do, they're up and running.
Okay, again, but like, prove me wrong for a second, both of you guys. I don't believe in the Warriors. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't. I think when Klay Thompson gets back, they'll be fine, but why should I believe in the Warriors side? Because people are talking like they could win the Western Conference when they have to go through the Phoenix Suns. But why, and even the Nuggets, but like, why should I believe in the Warriors?
Steph Curry, and the magic that he creates off the ball, that playbook is deep for plays to get Steph Curry wide open shots. And I have a guy like Jordan Poole, once Klay Thompson gets back, moving to the bench, he basically does the same thing that Steph Curry does on a much, much later level. I think that's a perfect opportunity for them to refigure their lineup, and I think that for now, Steph Curry is good enough where they can be fine throughout missing the Klay Thompson absence.
Sell me on him.
Yeah, exactly what Jack said. You look at a guy like Steph Curry, who has been dominating without Klay Thompson. Now you add another offensive weapon in there that is almost as unstoppable as Steph, especially from beyond the arc. There's no question who is going to be able to guard both of them, and with guys like Jordan Poole stepping up, those are three very effective offensive players that you have to guard. You guys have Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Who else are you going to put out there on the floor to be able to guard all three of them?
But who guards DeAndre Ayton? What big do they have?
Draymond Green.
Draymond Green, one of the best defensive players in the league.
I mean, they still have their pick from last year. I don't know. Like,
James Wiseman.
Maybe he comes back from the dead and is suddenly a combo center again. I don't know. Maybe.
Who knows? But okay. So, this entire episode is basically premised on why we think the Los Angeles Lakers are the worst and biggest trick team in the NBA. So, Matt, you said the Miami Heat, but just tell me about the Lakers. How bad have they been?
Just look at them. They've gotten older. I don't know how it's possible. You look at it. How is Carmelo Anthony part of the big three? Russell Westbrook has done nothing for this team since he's come here. Obviously, Jack, he'll get into that in a little bit. But they have done nothing to improve their team. As we talked about before the show, three-point shooting and defense was their problem, and they fixed none of that. They just decided, let's go bring in some older players to make it even just more. What is this, 2009? Like, we're playing in 2021 right now. You need to evolve and create a championship roster.
Hey, if this was 2011, they'd be killing it.
Yeah, I mean, they got 4 or 5 All-NBA team players from that 2009-2010 era. I printed off Russell Westbrook's box scores in the past 5 games. I have some notes. He's currently shooting under 50% from the free throw line, which is only 5% better than his field goal percentage. He's shooting 18% from 3, and he's gone 4 games with 1 or 0 makes. And yesterday, he had the rare Russell Westbrook quadruple-double. 20 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists, and 10 turnovers.
Yeah, 10 turnovers.
He's inefficient. He sits in the short corner and brick shots. They started opening him up with the short roll, but it finally makes more sense. But all they have to do is zone against this team, and they're just stuck. They can't do anything. I know the Warriors in Game 1, they zoned them, and a couple other teams have zoned them as well, and they've struggled to get shots up. On Monday, Malik Monk started in place of LeBron James. He had a plus 58 net rating because he can shoot the 3 ball. You just need more shooters. The Lakers will not win games if they cannot shoot.
And so you think the Miami Heat could also be a kind of trick team in there. Why don't you believe in the Heat?
I think the Heat have been overrated for a long time, especially since they got to the NBA Finals. They have, no question, a solid team, especially they're sound defensively. But, they signed Kyle Lowry, and then they thought, everything's going to be fixed. But really, you're only adding another strong defensive piece. You're not helping the offensive side of the ball. They don't have a lot of depth. And as we said, they are a tough team, and they fight through it, and they'll be very aggressive down the stretch. I just don't think they are going to live up to the expectations of a top 4, top 5 team in the East. And Kyle Lowry just wasn't the answer to that.
I'm sorry, I think I should disagree with that. Since Kyle Lowry has been on the team, they're actually the quickest in pace of play off of misses. While he hasn't gotten a shot to go in, that shot will come around. We've seen him hit massive shots in the past. This offense they're not known for being a good offensive team. They're known for being a gritty defensive team that will lock teams up. As long as their offense will stay afloat and is average, the defense will carry them all the way.
And speaking of gritty teams, I mean, we're talking about treat teams right now. Grit and grind, Memphis Grizzlies. You're a big fan of Ja Morant right now. Go off.
I have the Grizzlies being a top 5 offense this year. Ja Morant is averaging 35 and almost 9 assists. Desmond Bain is averaging almost 20 points. DeAndre Melton Jr. is averaging 15. JJJ is currently back from injury. He's healthy again. Steven Adams has been the big man that they needed. This team looks consistent and it looks really, really dynamic. They're 2-2. They got a weird loss to the Lakers when the Lakers actually started making some threes from one random night. So they should be 3-1, not 2-2. But I absolutely love this team. If Ja Morant can keep hitting shots, he's hitting 45% from three so far, this team will go far.
And so you think, the Chicago Bulls, with all their acquisitions, they're going to be that treat team they've started 4-0.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question about it. The Chicago Bulls are the real deal right now. They have an amazing starting five with the additions of Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan in there. And then you add the rookie Patrick Williams. He has been outstanding so far to start the season. Much higher, he's done a lot better than I expected coming out of the draft. But then you look at their bench as well. It just everything about the Bulls, it just gives you hope. It gives you a lot of hope that the Bulls are finally back in Chicago. Could be a playoff team.
I mean,
again.
we got a big game tonight. Chicago Bulls are playing the New York Knicks back in the 90s when
They'll
those
lose
teams...
tonight. They'll lose tonight.
Okay, guys, hold up. Quick question since you talked about Ja Morant, and we all know Zion Williamson has had too many Big Macs so far this season. If you could go back and take Zion Williamson or Ja Morant, would you keep Zion at number one?
I still think I would. I think his ceiling is higher than what Ja Morant has shown. I think the problem with Zion has not been him, but with the team. I think it's more the Pelicans' fault and how they haven't trusted him and let him grow on his own rather than trying to force him. I think it's more the fault of the Pelicans rather than Zion. So actually, as much as I love Ja Morant, I think Zion's probably the better pick here.
I completely agree. I think Zion Williamson is definitely still number one. Now, Ja Morant is there's definitely a debate now. I think Ja Morant has reached a level that I didn't think he'd reach this quickly. And for me, the only real criticism of Zion outside before the draft was his injury history. And he got injured at the beginning of the season, but we really haven't seen the impact that I thought it would have. So right now, I think Zion Williamson is definitely still number one.
All right, it's going to be a very interesting rest of the NBA season. We'll watch it throughout this one-on-one sports series.
Go Nugs.
Go Knicks.
Go Nugs.
Go Suns. So, Jack, thanks for joining us. Matt, thanks for joining us. That's it. You're on the hardwood. Thank you for watching this edition of One-on-One Sports.
Make sure to hit us up on those socials, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube at 101 Sports on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and hit the little bell icon. Let you know when we get every new video.
Thank you all for watching, and as always, whose side
Are you on?